Welcome back guys, it's Trio Reviews. Are you tired of seeing the same few overly hyped manhwas get mentioned in top 10 videos? Well, look no further, for this video will only show you great manhwas that other review videos will not talk about. Now without further ado, let's get started. All Hail the Sect Leader is a manhwa about sect building by our main character who is transmigrated to a martial arts world. The story focuses mainly on comedic moments and how our main character, Jun Chong Xiao, starts completing missions assigned to him by his system screen and starts recruiting disciples with great potential. By the way, most of the important disciples that reappear throughout the story so far are main characters from other real-life manhwas like Xiao Yan from Fights Break Sphere that has over 380 chapters and still ongoing, as well as an assassin that appears later on in the story that looks like and named Agent 47 from the popular Hitman game series. So, you could say this is clearly light-hearted story with a lot of parody and comedic factors. The story starts off with Jun Chong Xiao, the leader of the Iron Bones sect in the wilderness, looking for disciples. It shows him threatening a random person to join his sect, and when that failed, he ends up beating the person. Then it cuts to an intro about the sect, explaining how the sect began and its history, but takes a hilarious turn as the author states that the founding sect leader was sent to prison for going to brothels with a headband with dumb written on it, followed by explaining how the original Jun Chong Xiao of this world died from having a plaque hit him on the head on his way to the washroom at night. And that is how our main character took over the dead Jun Chong Xiao's body. After being transferred to this world, our main character was given a task by a system window much like other system-based mangas. Thus begins the journey of becoming the best set master of the best sect in the world for Jun Chong Xiao, and how he bullshits and shows off his way into getting disciples and fighting against other small-time villains to show his progression towards his goal. Keep a low profile. Sect Leader has a similar setting as All Hail the Sect Leader. This manhwa is set in a world where a super rich guy, aka our main character, plays an immersive video game like Sword Art Online and later somehow becomes a character inside the game. In the world Tianxian leader of the MO sect, our main character is Lu Gu. But the interesting thing about this manhwa, unlike most, is that this new world that he has been transferred to is still the same game, just set a few years earlier. If you read the first chapter, you can see that the systems say the beta testing stage will soon commence, hence telling us that our main character has become an NPC in the game and time traveled into the past before the game was open to the public, which is a new type of story setting unlike most that either have the main characters be transferred to a new world or the world they have read about or played and become a real world in a parallel universe. The author also gave our main character an interesting trait, extremely handsome, which is quite a weird and interesting thing to add. As for the goal given to Lu Ge, it is a lot simpler than our previous manhwa, as it is just to strengthen and expand the MO sect, which is pretty broad. In the beginning portions of the story, Lu Ge starts strengthening himself and spreading his name by doing amazing deeds in preparation for accepting disciples when the open beta starts and players start flooding into the game. It progresses as Lu Ge, a sect leader of a weak sect, awakening his spiritual power, leveling up his cultivation stage, and increasing his swordsmanship level. After having the stats that made him the strongest of his generation, he sets off to a city to defeat a man-made disaster of bats attacking the city and thus showing everyone his power by destroying the horde of bats with one move. And is later found out that this was done because the city he had saved was a starting point for many beta testers. With his name spread all over the city and to the players, Lu Gu was easily get many players to join his set just by using his handsome trait and standing in the air, giving off a godlike existence feeling to the players, helping him progress towards his goal. I Am the Fated Villain is a story revolving around Gu Changji, who is apparently the villain in the fantasy world he has transgressed into. He is told by his system that he is an overpowered cultivator and one of the strongest in the world in his generation, and that he has the ability to gain power from people known as Fortune's Chosen, who in simple terms are just people that would be considered protagonists if they had their own manhwas. Therefore, the story mostly revolves around Guchanga scheming deliberate traps against male protagonists and stealing their prestige points until he kills them. So, in short, the plot of this manhwa is our villain Guchanga slowly milking protagonist characters for their points and then killing them when he is done stealing their points. The story begins with Chang Ji in the main hall of a sect sitting next to the patriarch deciding on the punishment of a Fortune's Chosen because the sect leader wanted his daughter to marry Chang Ji since he is a promising youth and holds a high position in the world, whereas the Fortune's Chosen is currently a nobody. And thus, the sect leader decided to break off the relationship between the Fortune's Chosen and his daughter, but the Fortune's Chosen retaliated, causing the situation where they are settling their dispute in front of the entire sect. It ends up with the Fortune's Chosen being beaten by Chang Ji, stealing his points and throwing him in jail. Moreover, Chang Ji has now not only taken points from a Fortune's Chosen and taken a woman as his mistress. But that wasn't enough, so Chang Ji later visits the jail to steal all the Fortune's Chosen's points before killing him. Then this scenario of Chang Ji stealing points from people continues as he meets more and more people and introducing new situations into the story as we learn more about the world from the world-building aspects put in by the author. The Eternal Club is a bit controversial as to whether it is a good or bad manhwa. In my opinion, this is a pretty good read, as I think the story is mostly focused on our main character Lu Li's ability to control time. In terms of plot, it is about Lu Li suddenly gaining the ability to control time, but not at a godlike level that you see in some mangas or manhwas. After gaining this ability, Lu Li tests it out to grasp the limits of what he can do, such as taking a certain amount of lifespan from one person to another, leading him to create a contract that allows someone to trade in an amount of time off their own life in exchange for money. As his first target, he talks to a college student in need of money and exchanges a year off of the college student's life for $300,000. Following this transaction, he chances upon a rich old man dying on the news and goes to his mansion, telling the family that in exchange for a portion of the earnings the family will make in a year for 1 year of life for the old man, which they agreed and completed the transaction. From this you are able to tell that Lu Li is one of those intelligent main characters instead of the popularized fighting-focused main characters, as he learns more about his powers by experimenting using ideas. Having completed this transaction completely, Lu Li realizes that he can make a profit of his powers and build an empire of rich men who would advance humanity, creating projects to help the world. Therefore, it is a good read overall, but there are some problems because once in a while the author would introduce characters that seem like they would be important or at least show up from time to time but would just disappear. However, I don't really think that really matters because to me the story is mostly about Lu Li's time control ability and what he achieves with it, rather than some girl Lu Li dated but disappeared after some time. This is a webtoon about a civil engineering student Kim Suho who falls asleep reading a fantasy novel and wakes up as Lloyd Frontera, a character in the novel. Waking up in an unfamiliar place, Suho looks around and realizes he is in the body of Lloyd Frontera, a lazy noble from a family in a mountain of debt. Trying to change the fate he has read of his character from the novel, Suho starts to use his knowledge as an engineer and integrating that knowledge with the technology of this world. With the help of his family's knight Javier Azrahan, Suho starts to repay his family's debt and building new facilities and environments in his county. On his voyage to become rich to live a leisurely life, Suho trains Javier with the knowledge he has from the novel and ordering Javier around to commit many unreasonable acts to earn money, land, and people along the way. Suho would be best described as a person with dual personalities. One is of a boss of a black company that takes advantage of his employees and brainwashing them like a bad guy. The second being the opposite, with a great deal of sympathy towards his employees and people because in his original world he was on the receiving end of that abuse as well. Throughout the story you will see how Suho gradually manipulate people to follow him faithfully while taking advantage of them to help him with free labor building apartments, sewers, and many other things that require manual labor. So in a way you can say the basis of this story would be similar to the underlying relationships of employers and employees in companies. Thanks for watching. Hope you all enjoyed my top 5 system manhwa recommendations and stay tuned for more content related to anime, manga, and Asian dramas. Have a nice day.